Right, well, what I'm doing today is I'm just having a look at this potential multi-tool. It's just a prototype by Manticore Knives, just to see how effective it is at being a tool for doing the job of 3 or more other tools. So the first thing I've got to do is make it safe by making a sheath for it. So I'm just making a quick rough and ready sheath out of plywood. So I'm just marking it up, and I shall just sort of basically make a hollow piece of wood to pop it into. So I'll get on with that, and when I've made it, we'll start looking at it in a bit more detail. This is the very last of my fat wood, a scabby piece of fat wood. She's fascinated by the ice on the pond. She's already nearly gone in once because the ice is fairly thin. Anyway, back to the project in hand. Right, so what I want to talk about today is the multi-tool. And you'll all be familiar with the concept of one tool, such as the Leatherman Wave here, which does the job of many tools. So on this one tool we've got pliers, we've got screwdrivers, we've got a knife, two knives in fact, and we've also got scissors, bottle opener, small file, a multitude of tools in one fairly small, compact, for what it does, fairly light tool. So what we're asking ourselves today is, can this one tool with its accessories or accessory replace my folding saw, my bushcraft knife, my axe, and I very rarely take it with me, but I do quite often have it with me on the farm, and that's my machete. My machete is quite useful when I want to chop the odd lot of thistles or dock leaves down off the pasture land. I'm not expecting it, and I'm not asking it to come up to the full level of either of these, but in a emergency situation where you otherwise wouldn't want to carry all this weight, would this be useful? We'll see. Ordinarily, I would boil my meal in the water and then use the water for the to cook the dinner. But I've got plenty of heat on here, and this packet's past its sell-by date. Best before end August 2016. It's tomato pasta salad. Ingredients: tomato, water, pasta, wheat semolina, egg, tomato puree, basil, mature cheddar cheese, corn flour, olive oil, sea salt, sugar, black pepper. Can be eaten hot or cold. Stir well before serving. If this pouch is damaged or leaking, do not use. Oh. What I'll do now is I'll put this out and I'll be able to reuse it. There we go. Only 3 and a bit years past their used by best before date. So we've seen a bit of it chopping and making feather sticks. Let's have a look at the knife, because this is the saw, sorry, because this is quite intriguing. It's a standard DeWalt saw off one of those reciprocating saws. Paul's made an attachment. Those 3 holes there, or 4 holes, plus this attachment here. Line it up. It's fairly self-centering, and then just screw it up. Screw it up fairly tight, and then you have a saw on the end of your knife. So let's just see how that performs. I'd say you have to be a little bit careful with it, bearing in mind that you've got a sharp blade going backwards and forwards there, and a sharp blade going in and out there, so you don't really want to be using it in the dark. And you want to be aware that if you're not used to sawing, you can pull the saw across, and that would do one of 2 things. It would jam the saw, and it may also pull your hand into the blade if you're not careful. But that went through that with little effort. It wasn't sawing fast because I wasn't applying a lot of force, because as you saw, it is easy to pull off centre, and it's only a small light piece of work, and I can easily move my hand into the way of the blade. So it's got some downsides there, but this is a piece of reasonable hardwood. Although having said that, softwood is actually harder to saw than hardwood is. If you've done a lot of sawing, you find that the softwood gets jammed up in the cut. It doesn't clear the cut the same as hardwood does. So that wasn't bad though. The sort of thing she might do if she doesn't think she's getting enough attention. She'll get some attention in a minute. I'm not sure what to do with this. I suppose the best thing to do with this is to make it so it screws or fits in the scabbard or the sheath somehow, so you don't lose it, because otherwise you could easily lose this. It's not heavy. I think it's made out of, some of it's steel, and maybe that knob's made out of aluminium. Looks as though it's made out of aluminium. So it's not too heavy, but it is easy to lose. in which case you then couldn't use your saw. You'd have to strap it to a bit of wood and tie it up in a bit of wood. Speaking of tying things up in a bit of wood, that's our next use for this, although it's going to take you a little bit of time to do. If you had a lot of wood to chop, then it might be worth your while. We're going to find that out now. So I've got here a bit of wood that we chopped into earlier. Let's just tidy it up a bit. Right, so is it performable as an axe? Okay, my conclusions for an axe. I need to learn a lot more on how to tie it onto a handle and wedge it on so it can't move. So that was a hurried effort. It was the first time I've ever done it, and it hasn't worked out too well, but with practice I think I could do it better than that, so that it won't pivot so much. So it does perform as an axe, but nowhere near as well as an axe would perform. Now then, I can also think of another task for it, which is as a draw knife. So, oh, there's one more question, isn't there? Have a look at this. Well, if all else fails, you can always use the blade, can't you? It's pretty extreme when you use the blade. I think the back wants just flattening off a touch just to give it that 90 degree. So we've used it basically as a machete, as a knife, as an axe, as a hammer. What else could we use it for? A shovel. It would make a good shovel if you needed a shovel. I know you're going to blunt it in a lot of these things. You're going to blunt it. But with a small stone, you can soon bring it back up to sharpness. There's one thing I am concerned about, and that is it hasn't got a point on like a bushcraft knife has. So if you had to make a divot, well, you could easily make the startings of a divot, so there's no problem there. Skinning, I think you could use it for skinning if you had to skin. It worked well as an axe. Where's my axe handle? It worked. This is the first ever axe handle I've made for this, and I didn't tie it on as well as I should, I don't think, and perhaps paracord isn't the best thing to tie it on with, but it worked. And obviously in the pioneering days they didn't take things with them that they didn't need to. They would have taken the head of the axe and they would have made the haft or the handle when they got to where they were going. And I think we have to appreciate that things take time to make. Hey, what are you eating? So I think basically it does work as a multi-tool, and it'll do a lot of things that other tools will not do, or would do extremely poorly, where this is quite adequately get away with it. And it's pretty much indestructible, isn't it, eh? Pretty much indestructible. So as long as you can keep it sharp, and it, you know, it doesn't weigh that much, and it's one item. And if you had the one item, you'd get used to using the one item. So you'd probably find a lot more uses for it. So it's something to keep working on and get better with, especially the axe work. So that's how I filled my Sunday afternoon. Sun's starting to go down now, it's starting to get a bit colder.